All right, today we are tackling a huge topic for anyone in private equity. How do you actually adopt AI without, risking the entire fund on a massive data breach? We're going to break down the playbook for doing this securely in one of the most data-sensitive industries out there. Let's dive in. So picture this. You've got a $6 billion PE firm, they're all excited about their new AI tool, and then their general counsel finds this out. And get this isn't some made-up horror story. This is a real thing that happened. Their most sensitive, confidential deal data was literally sitting on the same physical hardware as their direct competitors. It's a pretty sobering thought, isn't it? As everyone rushes to get that AI edge, a lot of firms are just completely overlooking these huge architectural flaws that could expose everything. So you really have to ask yourself, how sure are you that this couldn't be you? And that really brings us to this tightrope walk that every PE firm is on right now. It's the AI paradox. I mean, on one hand, AI is this unbelievable competitive advantage. But on the other, one wrong move, and it's a truly existential risk. So the question isn't if you should use AI, it's how you do it without betting the entire fund. So why is this so much harder for PE? Well, it's because your data is just built different. We're not talking about simple customer email lists here. We're talking about material, non-public information on active deals. We're talking about confidential portfolio company financials, data governed by complex LP agreements, and of course, the secret sauce of your entire investment strategy. Your off-the-shelf, enterprise-grade AI security, it just wasn't built for this. So to manage all this risk, you just can't treat all your data the same way. That's rule number one. The whole solution really starts with data classification. You have to build a framework for your most sensitive information so you can match the right level of security to the right level of risk. Let's break down what that actually looks like. At the very top, the absolute crown jewels, we have Tier 1, Deal MNPI, Material Non-Public Information. This is the stuff that literally moves markets, the kind of information that triggers insider trading investigations. Think SIMs, deal models, term sheets. If this stuff leaks, it's not just a bad day, it's catastrophic. Game over. The security here has to be completely non-negotiable. Okay, moving down a notch, we've got Tier 2, portfolio company data. This is your financials, your KPIs, board materials. It's obviously incredibly valuable stuff, but it's usually governed by specific agreements with the portfolio company, not by federal securities law. So the security still needs to be locked down tight, but you've got a bit more flexibility on who gets the keys. Then we get to Tier 3, your LP and investor data. Now, this is governed by this complex web of LPAs, privacy laws like GDPR, you name it. And here's the real kicker. Depending on your agreements, just processing this data with a third-party AI vendor might require you to get explicit consent from your LPs. That's a big one to remember. And finally, at the bottom, we have Tier 4, market intelligence. This is all your research, your sector reports, anything and everything derived from public information. This is your training ground. It is the absolute safest place to start your AI journey. You use this data to test your security, prove the model works, way before you even think about touching the more sensitive stuff. So when you put it all together, you get this complete framework. And the logic is pretty simple, right? As the data gets hotter, moving up from Tier 4 market intel to Tier 1 MNPI, the security requirements get way, way stricter. For the really critical stuff, you need things like zero retention and private instances. This right here, this is your roadmap for doing this right. Okay, so we've got our data sorted into tiers. Now what? What technology actually gives you this level of security? Well, it all comes down to two non-negotiable principles. And this is where we move past what a vendor says they'll do and into the world of physical, provable guarantees. First up, and this one is huge, is something called zero retention architecture. And listen closely, because this is not the same thing as a deletion policy. It means your data is processed in a temporary, throwaway environment. As soon as your query is done, that whole environment, poof, it's destroyed. Your data never, ever, ever touches a permanent hard drive. Let's make this crystal clear. A deletion policy is just a pinky promise from a vendor that they'll delete your data eventually. Zero retention, on the other hand, is physics. It's a physical guarantee that the data cannot stick around because the space it existed in for just a few milliseconds is gone. And when you're dealing with MNPI, a promise just isn't going to cut it. You need physics on your side. All right, non-negotiable number 2. For your sensitive data, you have to avoid multi-tenant systems. Think about it this way. It's like finding out your law firm uses the same shared document system as the opposing counsel in your biggest deal. Would you ever be okay with that? No way. Sure, The vendor will promise there are digital walls between you and the other tenants, but why on earth would you risk it when you can have your own separate system? And that brings us to private instances. So I can hear you asking, what's this private dedicated instance going to cost me? Typically, you're looking at about a 30 to 50% cost premium over a shared model. And yeah, that can sound like a big number at first. But hang on, let's put that cost into perspective. For a firm that's managing billions of dollars, that annual price difference, the cost to guarantee your MNPI is protected, is less than a single first-year associate's bonus. When you frame it like that, it's a no-brainer. The risk is fund-ending. The cost to prevent it is, well, it's basically a rounding error. But look, the best tech in the world is totally useless without the right rules of the road. You've got to wrap that incredible architecture in a really strong governance model. This is the human layer, the processes and policies that make sure the tech is used correctly and keeps everyone, from the regulators to your LPs to your own partners, happy. And you absolutely cannot afford to wait on this. Why? Because the regulators are coming. Check this out. In 2023, only about 8% of SEC exam letters to PE firms even mentioned AI. By 2025, that number is projected to shoot up to 34%. The trend is crystal clear. If you don't have a documented AI governance plan, you are going to face some really tough questions. So what does a good rulebook actually look like? Well, it's a structured system where everyone knows their role. It means having a formal AI policy document, an oversight committee that actually has teeth, super strict access controls, and regular audits to make sure the AI is doing what it's supposed to. And this isn't just bureaucracy for its own sake. This is the operating manual that makes it possible to use AI safely day in and day out. Okay, let's bring this all home. We've talked about the why, the what. Now let's talk about the how. Here is a straightforward 4-phase playbook that'll take you from creating a policy all the way to production, without taking on stupid risks. The key here is simple. You have to walk before you can run. You start with the foundation. You build your policy and your data framework. Then you go find vendors that actually meet your standards. Now, step 3 is the real litmus test. You start a pilot, but you only use your lowest risk Tier 4 public data. You prove the security works there first. And only then, once it's proven to be rock solid, do you carefully, methodically start rolling it out to Tiers 3, 2, and finally the crown jewels in Tier 1. Okay, let's boil this all down. If you walk away with nothing else, remember these 4 things. 1. PE data is special, and it needs a special security model. 2. Your technical non-negotiables are zero retention and private instances. Don't compromise. 3. Governance isn't a nice-to-have, it's a must-have. And 4. Roll this out in phases. Start slow, start safe. So I'll just leave you with this final thought. Make no mistake, your competitors are already adopting AI. The game is already happening. So the real question for you isn't just about playing defense. It's about whether your security foundation is a set of handcuffs holding you back, or if it's the solid base that lets you move faster, be smarter, and ultimately to win.